Welcome to West of Tulsa. I'm CJ Ward. We are broadcasting from Ventura, California. We have a really fun show today. In fact, this is a show that would be... I know Richard Keller, who's one of the founders of West of Tulsa, would love this show today. Because he was a Corvair guy.
For sure.
Yeah, when he died, he had 6 Corvairs. None of them ran, but he had 6 Corvairs. And he loved those Corvairs. So yeah, we've got a pretty fun show. We got Dan at the controls.
Yes, sir.
And Gabe's here.
Yep.
And we got the Corvair guys here. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Vince Petrie.
Good morning.
And Greg Vargas.
Yes.
Greg, you came up from Santa Monica.
Yes, I did.
And Vince, you came down from Arroyo Grande.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. And you guys are both members of the Central Coast Corsa Chapter of the Corvair Club.
Yes, that's a chapter of Corsa, the Corvair Society of America.
All right.
Is Corsa
welcome.
Italian for Corvair or something? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, Corsa has other connotations, but I don't know what they are. But in our case, it's an acronym for Corvair Society of America.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Cool word. I like it.
And it's an active chapter because when I was restoring Beth 61 Monza, I came to you guys for parts. So it was like, I need parts. And it was like an air cleaner I think I bought from you, Vince,
yes,
right?
Yes, you did, huh?
Yeah, and I had to go out and find the rest of the parts as well. But after joining, I'm now on the email list. And you guys are really active. It's really fun.
Yeah, we have a show every June, the weekend after Father's Day, called Verfest, and it's a 3-day event in Arroyo Grande. And we have tech sessions and meetings and outings, and we like to get our Corvairs together and go to local car shows.
Yeah, and when I've noticed in the emails, you'll meet up at a member's house to help them. And everybody brings food, and you just kind of hang out. It sounds like a lot of fun.
Yeah, we always have a potluck. And I'll tell you, that is the reason I joined the Corvair community, is because I met these guys at our Saturday morning Cars and Coffee, and I found out that they had meetings. And hey, this is great, because my Volkswagen club that I was in didn't have meetings. They didn't have anything. So these guys had meetings, and they had a show, and I thought, I want to get involved with these guys because they're active.
Yeah.
And I became involved, and that was about 10 years ago, and it's been great.
Well, and I think I called you a week or two ago and about, I think, being on the show. And you said, oh, we're at some guy's house and he's got a whole bunch of Corvairs. And so people know to call you up if, somebody's passed on or whatever it is and they have all these Corvairs. They'll come to you guys and try and find somebody who may want to buy them and restore them for either the car itself or the parts.
Yeah, that's right. And that's like the 3rd or 4th time we've had some Corvair owner pass away and leave his collection to his family or heirs. And they've called us and said, we need to do something with these. I don't want them. The wife says, the widow, I don't want them. Can you help me get them into the hands of someone who will appreciate it? So we've done that several times.
Yeah. And you're involved, so you're actually in 2 clubs, right, Greg?
Yeah,
so
I'm a member,
one down in LA.
Yeah, I'm a member of Central Coast. They go there regularly, especially for the Verfest they have every June. And once again, it's a really nice show for people who want to go to the Central Coast. It's straight drive from the north, straight drive from the south. There really is no reason for anybody not to just kind of like take their car straight on straight line and go to the show. It's really wonderful.
Can't get lost.
No, not at all. And since I live in Santa Monica, I'm a member of Southcoast Corsa. We're located kind of in the South Bay, Redondo Beach, Torrance, Hawthorne, Long Beach. That area stretching down there along the bend, and we. There's a similarity in the way clubs work. We have, well, actually not anymore right now because of some permitting problems, but we had a show regularly for a number of years. We do what we call garage runs, where everybody kind of gets together. And for those who are less mechanically inclined, those that are more mechanically inclined will help you fix your car. If it's something that can be reasonably done within a day or so. Or, we have even places that, we can forward you to that'll help you work on your car, get it kind of organized and repaired, fixed, and so it's really the community of people that come together to help each other out, and the same thing, either looking for cars or helping other people buy cars. Most recently, I just got a email from a guy out in Sunland, and he got in touch with me, and then we talked yesterday, and he's looking to buy a '62 that he located in Connecticut, and he wanted to know what I knew about Corvairs, which is, not a, I mean, I've been around them over the years, but I don't know like a lot, but I've been around them enough over the years to have the general knowledge of kind of like what's going on. So we talked a little about it. He showed me some pictures, got a general idea of what's going on with the car, looked at kind of the pricing. So that's the thing. You get these calls from all over the place. People just want to, hey, I need help.
Right.
You seem to be a contact. What do you know? what information can you share with me? And then you make a new friend.
And that's the whole point of the club, right? Is to just keep that hobby going, the passion going, and
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. Now we should say, I think one of the things about our show, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but one of the things about West of Tulsa that I've enjoyed is that we've been giving love to certain clubs that don't always get the love, right?
Yeah, Z owners, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think Corvair may fall into that. Corvairs aren't always the most loved cars, especially if you're my age or our age, where you remember Ralph Nader, for example.
Right.
We're allowed to say that name in front of you guys, right?
Yes, you're allowed to say it.
That car got a bad rap for a
It
long
did.
time.
We may have
really
some things to comment about him later on. In the show.
Ooh, let's dish about Ralph
Oh, good.
Nader.
The good stuff. I like
want
it.
a dish.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
You know-
no, you're right, CJ. But it's just your perspective. Is like because there's people that are not fond of the Corvair, or there's people that are very fond of the Corvair.
Right, exactly.
So
Yeah.
it depends which angle you're looking at. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, a lot of times it seems to be that people are misinformed about the Corvair.
Right.
That's the thing. Which actually, that kind of misinformation has actually been beneficial for the Corvair over the years.
It actually has. I was just going to say the same thing. The Corvair is a narrow focus. It's a single mark car, and the people who know about it love it. And the bad rap it got from Nader has kept the price down as a collector car, so it allows us to enjoy our hobby, where a lot of other cars are hard to touch.
You mean priced out?
Exactly.
You would have been priced out a long
Priced
time
out.
ago if everybody knew.
So you'd say
Yeah.
that the Corvair is a great entry car for someone that wants to get into a classic car or an older car.
Well, not only just an entry car for somebody who wants to get in a classic car, it is actually just a classic car to get into.
Sure.
But entry level financially.
Yeah.
Financially,
yes.
that's what I meant. Sorry. Yeah.
Otherwise, yeah. And I'm reading Ralph Nader's book. I'm almost done for the second time through.
Wow.
So
Oh, you're glutton for punishment, huh?
it's very eye opening, and we can talk about it when we get to that point. But I'm sure you have a.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing about the Corvair is I had never really driven a Corvair until we got the 61 going for my wife. And, I get into it and it's kind of got this funky feel to it. And I'm like, man, I'm driving 911, right? Which is like, it's dialed in. You tell that car, give it a little jerk on the steering wheel and the thing
precision.
takes off. It's total precision. You get into the 61 Corvair and it's like, you're kind of like,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
kind of going
It's a suggestion.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, where do you want to go? But I will say this: the more I drive it, the more I enjoy it. It's such an experience. It's like going back in time to 1961, and this is what a 61 Corvair felt like. It starts up every time, and I mean, it does drip a little bit of oil, like everybody has always said. But I'll tell you, I've had fun driving the thing.
And they want to be driven. Those cars don't like to sit. I mean, as an air-cooled engine, it can sit because there's no coolant in the system to corrode stuff. So it can sit, but they don't like to be. They don't like to sit. They need to be driven regularly to keep everything functioning.
Now, one of the things, I think we talked about this on the telephone a little bit, and this touches on what you guys were just saying, and that is, the prices have been kept low, maybe out of a lack of respect for the Corvair over the years. Are you starting to see a little bit of change in that with the younger folks coming in? And I mean, one, they don't know about Ralph Nader.
Two things there is that the prices are buying a Corvair is relatively inexpensive, but the prices are now starting to go up within that inexpensive range. They're really starting to rocket, and that's good for us who own them. Before, where you can buy a Corvair easily for just a couple $1,000s. Now that might be like $5,000 or $6,000.
Right.
So relatively, the prices are definitely creeping up. But it's like I said, there's good and bad to it all.
Especially for certain models like the wagons and the ramp side pickup trucks.
They're more
if they're
rare,
restored, they'll go for a lot of money at auction. But
Because there just aren't many of them out there, right?
No.
Right, but if you're not into the auction scene, you can find them. If you're a club member, there's always classified ads in our newsletters, and somebody who passed away, they got a Corvair that their husband didn't finish. There's deals out there to be made, to be found.
And I look at evaluations on Hagerty all the time. And the last couple of years, the Corvair has been going up. Pretty much all years have been going up, especially the turbos. You get the
turbos are the collector car.
Yeah.
But that's Hagerty is a high. Hagerty cars are overpriced in my mind. I did my own study of prices that Corvairs actually sold for at every selling venue that I could locate online, and I made a study, and the average price of a Corvair $12,000.
Wow.
From the concours finished car to the project in the backyard.
Wow.
The average price is still $12,000. But I did want to back up a minute and say that Greg's chapter does a great job of encouraging the younger generation to get involved in the Corvair, because they make it a point to, and jump in here, to include Corvairs that these kids have modified.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They don't care about being stock because they have no nostalgia. They like to take a car and make it personal. So maybe you could tell us a little about what you're seeing, Greg.
Yeah, that's a big trend now, at least in Southern California. We've noticed with Corvairs is that there's a lot of modifications taking place in Corvairs from anywhere top to bottom, inside and out. It's kind of nice to see.
Are they doing motor swaps? What are they
swapping
out? What are they swapping out? Are they?
There are some motor swaps happening. There's also one of the guys in our club, Chuck Russ, has a mid-engine V8 in his car. Crown. Originally it was a Crown mid-engine, but now he just basically revamped the entire car. But they're doing not many motor swaps, but more customizations.
Okay.
For example, what I'm noticing right now specifically is that there's a new trend or in Corvair lowriders starting to happen. Which is really interesting to see.
Wow.
Corvair lowriders?
Yeah, little by little, you're seeing these things more and more.
That's awesome.
So you just kind of follow these trends and watch what's happening to them. But I mean, the customization can anything be from body modifications, to certain ways, certain tires and alterations in order to put the larger tires on.
Suspension, kind of lowering it a little bit.
Suspension changes. I mean, all kinds of great stuff. There's a guy here actually in Santa Barbara, Christian Mejia, who is one of the better, Corvair builders doing modifications on cars. It's amazing the stuff that he does.
I think there was a car at your show that had a Nissan 6-cylinder in the back.
Yeah, a guy down in San Diego.
Yep.
Yeah, he put a 6-cylinder Nissan in the back.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Wow.
See, there is some hope there, Gabe. That's you're talking his language now.
Because you will also see front engine Corvairs every now and then.
Yeah.
Where they've dropped something else in the front.
Yeah.
And there's always a question. that's not a Corvair. Well, yes, it is. It's whatever you want. Basically, it's the Corvair body, and a lot of the parts are still Corvair, but they're changing them. They're making them their own.
Yeah.
And that's the cool thing.
And that's what people do with any car, any make and model. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I'd love to hear that. I never even knew. I mean, Corvair, it's never really caught my attention, and I was probably maybe one on the hate list. I hate the hater list, or whatever. So when CJ said we got some Corvair guys coming, I'm like, oh, this will be great, because I have a question to ask.
Yeah.
Why Corvair? Like, why? What made you want to get in? It sounded like you were more into the community first, and then you got into the car. But obviously, you still have the car and you still promote it. So the car obviously must give you something that you really enjoy. So I'm curious to know what that actually is.
Well, there are two things that come to mind immediately. One of them is I'm an engineer by training and career. So the Corvair is very interesting as an engineering piece of work. The rear engine air-cooled was a groundbreaking design at the time when it came out in 1959 as a 1960 model. So that is very interesting to me to learn those systems. Secondly, the Corvair is kind of an oddball car, and forgive me, Greg, and everybody else.
No, it's true.
The owners are kind of oddball.
Sure.
That was going to be my next question for both of you guys. It's like we've had Morgan guys. Morgan guys are weirdos for sure. So how would you rate the Corvair weirdness versus like a Morgan weirdness?
I don't know what a Morgan weirdness is.
Okay. Well, they wear like a leather bomber thing and goggles to drive their car.
Actually, no, I can ask him a question because you used to be a VW guy. The VW guys are weird. Right?
So maybe
they're kooky to me, actually. They're kooky. But I'm wondering, though, would I be wrong in saying that the Corvair owners are maybe have that same kind of weird quirkiness, but a little bit more technical?
Yeah.
Maybe so, yeah.
That's what I would say, too. Okay. It's a technical leaning that's very interesting.
Yeah.
What Vince said and what we talked about earlier when I got here, just outside, was that's where I live in Santa Monica in the South Bay. A lot of engineers or guys that work in aerospace are attracted to this vehicle.
Yeah,
interesting.
Well, and what's interesting. I mentioned Richard Keller right off the top. So Richard is the one who started where we are right now, west of Tulsa. And this museum that we're sitting in the middle of, he was an aeronautical engineer.
It's amazing.
It's amazing. Yeah. And he loved anything that was mechanically interesting, something that was just so different. And back then, that's exactly what this was. He also bought Studebakers. He bought the Tornados. He bought anything that was just kind of groundbreaking mechanically and technically. And that's what drew him to Corvair. And when he died 2.5 years ago or whatever, he had, I think, 6 of them. And then he had a couple extra parts cars. But he just really enjoyed the cars.
So we've come to the consensus, I think, that each car club is weird in its own way.
Totally.
So when I say Corvair owners are odd or weird, it's not a criticism at all. In fact, it's a compliment. We have our own weirdness to everybody else.
For sure.
No, that's a good way to put it.
But Vince did touch on it when he said that specifically about the Corvair, is that it was unique from the very beginning. There was nothing being built like that at all at that time. Out of the 50s into the 60s, and all of a sudden, Chevy, General Motors brought out the Corvair, different from anything else that they were producing. And complete from the aluminum engine to having to retool stuff, having to find the right tires. It was from the ground up,
from scratch.
Yep, unique.
Yeah, and I know it piqued Porsche's curiosity too in the late 50s when they knew what Chevrolet was trying to do. Now, my understanding is they bought a bunch of them and they took them over to Germany to what are they doing? So you got Porsche that's pretty interested in what Chevrolet was doing with the Corvair.
Mm-hmm.
So are you guys more into the heritage and the legacy of that car versus the driving performance-ish? It sounds like, I wouldn't say that the best handling or driving cars. I could be wrong. But because you guys talk about the engineering side of it and the innovative side of it, because it was a unique and maybe, I won't say ahead of its time maybe, but would you say that's a big draw of why you like these cars because of that history behind them?
I think it's probably a little bit of both, and depends on the day. I think in the long run, like for somebody like me, I got into Corvairs because my father owned one. When I was looking, at the time I was between cars and I was looking for another car to drive. And I thought, my dad had a 63 Corvair when I was a kid. And I remember specifically really liking that car as a kid because it was just, probably more because I was just having fun with my family. But when I started looking for a car, the first thing I did was call a local Corvair mechanic down in, he was in, I think, Inglewood at the time, Corvair doctor, Keith Harrington. And I called him up and talked to him and said, hey, I'm interested in buying a car. I'm interested in Corvairs. What can you tell me about it? He goes, well, come on down and let's talk. So I drove down there and we talked for a little while. 2 days later, I bought one of his cars. Because so it's in that case, to answer the question, it was a personal reaction and a personal reason to get into Corvairs, maybe just by chance. But once I was driving them, I started really to like them. Talking to people that knew a hell of a lot more than I did, got really a little bit more into the history. I don't necessarily do mechanical work, but at least having a general understanding of what's going on with the car, so you can identify things, if you need to, and get somebody to help you to work on them if you don't work on them yourself. Mm-hmm. So it becomes a little bit of everything, depending on what day it is, like I said.
Sure.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, because I'm a big rotary guy. I own a couple of rotaries, right? And the rotary guys are weird too, just like the Corvair guys. But you said something interesting. You had to learn, not that you're working on the car, but you had to understand the car to know how it works. So it could be more reliable or more fun to drive. Because a lot of people ding the rotary because they don't know how to treat a rotary. They don't know what it takes to own a rotary. And, they expect it to be like a Honda Civic and get in and works every single time and without doing anything to the car. That's obviously not the case. With the Corvair, they do need some love, just like all the old cars. But you decided to, Greg, decided to find out about the car, learn more about the car so you can understand the car, maintain it, drive it, experience it a little bit better. So I think that's really important to know. And that's what the clubs are really important, because you get that information from these resources from this group of guys. That's why I still have a rotary, because there's many guys that I can call on and say, hey, what does it do?
What can I do? Where can I get parts?
That community is very rewarding, having that connection with people.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Now, I don't know if you remember the movie Animal House, when Flounder shows up at the frat party and they take him and put him in the back room with all those oddball guys. Yeah. That's why I'm in the Corvair Club, because I like oddball things. I like things that aren't mainstream, things that don't attract the attention of everybody. And so that's really why I like the Corvair. But I have to say that I'm always scared when I drive my Corvair, because it's an old car. I'm always worried something's going to break. I know I'm burning precious premium fuel at 18 miles of the gallon and polluting the air. And so I'm conflicted about this car. I love it. I love the technology, but I'm really reticent to drive it.
Sure.
I want to drive it more, but it's not the driving experience that's drawn me to this car. It's the interest in its technology.
Well, you're the first Corvair owner. I've only met like 2 or 3. We met one at Cars and Coffee the other day, but that's actually admitted to that, because there was one guy trying to sell. CJ interviewed him a while back. He had fully restored, like he did all kinds of stuff to it, souped up the motor, did the interior, this and that, and he's trying to sell me.
That's a red one.
The red one. He's trying to sell me. A nice guy, but he was just trying to sell me like, this thing will out handle anything on the in the canyon. Like, bro, dude, what kind of crack are you smoking? I was like, I'm sure it handles better than any factory Corvair.
Right.
But you're trying to tell me that this thing will beat my RX-8 or my RX-7 in the canyon? I'm like, dude, unless you're Mario Andretti, I don't think that's going to happen.
And that's not the point.
Yeah, exactly.
But
But
the ownership.
But I can appreciate that, because I mean, you said you're oddball. Would a Corvair owner be offended or appreciative of being called an oddball car guy?
Yeah, I don't know how they take it. I just want them to I want to say to everyone who's ever listens to this, I don't mean it as a criticism.
Sure.
No.
I hope you don't take it that
I say
way.
oddball in a complimentary way.
All in the spirit of fun,
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah,
Exactly.
because
Yeah.
people like cars for different reasons. That's why there's so many different cars for different people. It's like I said, there's an ass for every seat, right?
Uh-huh.
So the Corvair is for maybe somebody who's into the technical side of it, or the quirkiness of the car, or whatever. And maybe that's one thing. What are the quirky parts about a Corvair that someone like myself, I don't even know? What would be something other than the fact that the engine's in the wrong spot, like a 911? But what would be some of the quirky things about that a Corvair owner has to deal with?
It's air cooled, so you have to make sure that all the engine sheet metal tin is in place, so you get the proper cooling.
Right.
You don't
All the seals are in place.
That's correct. You don't want to modify the car, because all other car clubs know this. You modify one thing, it affects something else.
Yeah.
Stock Corvair is designed to operate correctly, and it usually does the way it's designed.
Can your stock Corvair on a summer day make it from the bottom of the grapevine to the top at 40 miles an hour?
Oh, absolutely.
No problem.
That's right.
You're not going to be stressing out that, oh my God, I'm going up this X% grade in 110 degree ambient heat. That's okay.
Got 140 horsepower in that 2,000-pound car, 2,100-pound car. So it can make the grade.
It makes 140?
The version that I have does. It's a performance.
Is that the turbo one?
It's the 4-carburetor engine. That's a factory engine.
Okay.
Okay.
Wow. I didn't know they made that much power. That's
And
actually
even
quite
though-
a bit of power for back in the day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, the Corvair came out with an 80 horsepower engine in the first model year.
Right.
And then the turbo in 65 had 180. So they added 100 horsepower to the basic architecture of this car over its lifetime.
Over the years, the Corvair engine developed from 80 to, I think it was 80, 98, 102, 110.
150.
150, yeah,
140, 150, 180.
Yeah, the engine, they kept on improving it, really, and it was useful for whatever you wanted it to be used for. Like my little 61, 80 horsepower engine. And when you said 40 miles an hour up the grapevine, I got to do better. Maximum 35 miles an hour up the grapevine in my 61.
Okay, there you go.
So, yeah.
Well, I was really more
With a truck behind you.
I was really more angling towards the heat issue, not the horsepower issue, but the heat issue. Like, would you be concerned if you were in that high ambient heat going up pulling a grade?
It's got a very efficient cooling fan that blows a lot of air over the engine. And if all that stuff is properly in place, you get enough cooling to keep the car.
So Corvairs aren't known for overheating, particularly as long as they're in good shape.
Correct.
If they've been messed up, then maybe they do.
I could really
overheat.
see what gets Vince's thing going with that car, because we talk about the cooling. Is like he knows that it was engineered to take those kinds of things. So if you modify one of those things, I would imagine yours is fairly stock. Yeah, so
Correct.
everything
Yes.
works the way it's supposed to from the
Yes.
factory, because it was engineered to do something similar. But that's what you really like about it.
Mm-hmm.
I can appreciate that.
Yeah,
Honestly, I had no respect for the Corvair. I thought it was a turd. I thought it was stupid. but I get it. People do like that car. I recognize that, but I understand why now, because you, being a technical guy, you like the technical part of it, and I can appreciate that. You know, so I learned something new today. I thought that was pretty cool.
New respect there for the Corvair.
Absolutely, new
That's it.
respect.
So you want to drive the 61?
Not
out
a
there?
chance.
Okay, I didn't think so.
Not a chance.
You know, the thing that
Unless
impressed
you want me to break it. If I'll break it for you if you want.
Well, the thing that impresses me about the Corvair is just knowing within its context. I mean, I was born in '63, and I know about the Ralph Nader stuff, and I grew up with Corvairs. You know, my friends would get dropped off at elementary school in their mom's Corvair. But the thing that impresses me is it was so freaking out of the box for GM of all companies. That in itself is kind of amazing, I think.
Yeah, it is amazing for that time. Yeah, so I'd like to talk a little bit about that now, if we can maybe shift gears a little bit.
Yeah,
because
absolutely.
I just
no pun intended, but yeah, go
It's
ahead.
free flow.
I was just reading Ralph Nader's book again for the second time, and I learned so much. It's unfortunate he picked the Corvair as his poster child, because his book is basically about the auto industry
In
and
general.
and how they were neglectful of
Safety
consumer
features and-
safety.
Yeah.
So in the late 40s and early 50s, the automobile technologically kind of reached a plateau after the growth spurt from the beginning of the century, 20th century, and so the auto companies realized this, and they realized that in order to compete, their new priority was styling. And so they put all their effort into styling.
Tail fins,
appearance.
baby. Tail fins.
And technology took a second back seat to it, and safety was almost unheard of. Anything that had to do with safety, if it didn't sell cars, they completely ignored it. So the Corvair is a child of that era, child when style was king, even though the Corvair was technically different than anything on the road at the time. It eventually succumbed to the styling competition of all the auto companies at the time. So
I think that's because that's eventually what sells the car, is the styling, or the
eyeballs.
The eyeball.
Yeah.
Sell the
appearance of
sizzle,
it.
right?
it was at that time. But now
Yeah.
we know today safety is a huge thing, and that safety is a
Yeah.
big factor. But back then it wasn't. It was all styling.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the Corvair is a child of that era, and it's no better or no worse than other cars of that era.
And there's a lot of testing during the time that Nader was making these claims, and in the years after, that proved that he was just wrong about it.
Well, the thing is, and Vince just read the book. He could let me know if I'm right or not. There were other cars at the same time that had the exact same rear end problems, let's just call them, that Nader is accusing the Corvair of having. It wasn't the only car. He just happened to choose the car to be put as the first chapter.
Yeah.
Well, explain
Poster
that.
child.
So for our younger viewers, or not as informed viewers, what Ralph Nader said about the Corvair. And
I'll
give some context to.
He wasn't wrong about the Corvair. What we found out is that the Corvair was no better or worse than other cars of the era, and it was unfair to single it out.
Right.
But other cars of that era, he actually mentions in here the first generation Pontiac Tempest was probably worse than the Corvair for the swing axle handling problems that it had. He says that in here.
Well, didn't he testify in front of Congress with all this stuff?
Yeah.
I remember
He did.
seeing the film. It was he testified in front of Congress, and the Corvair got hoisted by its neck, basically.
And GM refuted that and did a bunch of engineering studies to say that the Corvair was no different. They didn't say the Corvair was problem-free. They said it was no different than the cars there.
Different in safety.
Yeah. Thanks to Ralph Nader, he got a lot of resistance from the auto industry because they didn't want to do anything that didn't sell cars, and safety didn't sell. And so they fought back tooth and nail against any safety improvements in automobiles until the government forced them to do it by law. And then they finally had to do it. And after all this complaining and saying, we can't do it, it's too expensive, and we don't have the technology, suddenly they had the technology and they did it.
Did the 60 come with seatbelts?
No, they weren't required.
No belts.
None.
61. When did they come in with
I think
seatbelts?
63 they were optional.
63 they were option.
And I know the
think so.
61 that we've got, the only reason and those original seatbelts on that car, he paid an extra $3.
So it was an option.
It was an
You
option.
could get them.
Yeah.
It's just they didn't come standard.
Exactly.
Wow.
He paid an extra $3 for the seatbelts. He paid for the high performance motor. So it went from the 80 horsepower to 98. He paid $23 for that.
So anything safety related was an option that the owner could choose.
I mean, even like 1960 didn't have side view mirrors.
Really?
They weren't required.
Yeah.
Did it have a rear view mirror?
Rear view mirror.
It had a rear view mirror, but no side mirrors.
side view mirrors.
Wow.
especially the 500 models, which were just the bare bones
Wow.
model that came out.
So now today, as a hobby car, the Corvair, you don't have to worry about safety in the Corvair today because of a number of things. First of all, most importantly is the tire technology. Today, tires are so much better than they were before. And owners know that they have to keep the proper pressure differential between the front and the rear tires. So we're educated now. We do that. Also, most owners have put seatbelts in their cars.
Yeah.
And we're not driving our car. We're not loading the car up with the family and luggage and driving cross country to see grandma, which is... could cause the car to behave radically. We drive it for local shows, and we maybe have one or two people in the car. So there's a lot of behavior that has changed, and some technology changes that make the Corvair a relatively safe car to drive today for what we use it for.
Am I remembering correctly that there was a baby cradle seat thing on the rear deck as an option in some years? I saw a car
in the rear package area.
Yeah, it had the really.
It's almost like a little hammock for kids that they would
Exactly.
put in there. The little baby.
You saw that?
You see?
You saw that?
Yeah, I saw it. It came across my feed. I saw an old black and white pic. Can you imagine, Gabe, your daughter riding on the back deck of a Corvair like in a little hammock?
I did, because I did that in my dad's 240Z, like in
Really?
the back hatch. Oh yeah, I rode the back hatch all the time.
Oh, there you
I
go.
thought it was like the
Okay.
coolest thing.
There you go.
They made a harness back in the day, and I've seen ad for it for your child. You put the harness on him and hook it in the back seat, and your child can stand up in the car safely.
Oh boy.
Apparently.
Wow.
What a great time to be alive in those.
I know.
I say,
Or dead.
How anybody survived the 60s and 70s, I have no clue.
If you
like-
survived the 60s, you survived
That's
a lot,
it.
right?
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I use the term harness loosely. It was like more like a leash.
I mean, and this isn't uncommon for cars of that era, but
Yeah.
like I said, I remember, when my dad had a car with Corvair when we were young, he would just fold down the back seat. My sister and I would just be rolling around when he's driving the car. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Safety, yeah. What safety?
Yeah. Well, we had that with the station wagon.
Yeah, I
Go
remember.
down flat,
I remember the
and
back of the
sleeping
station
bags,
wagon. Yeah,
and you just
sleeping
sleep in the
bags.
back. Yep.
And I was in the back of the pickups too. I mean, I don't know
Yeah.
if you guys
Oh, that was
ever
the
did
best,
yeah.
dude. That was the best.
Yeah.
So then when the Corvair came out, it kind of like shocked the car industry because it was unique. It was one of its kind, right? So I would imagine some people probably thought, "Oh, that looks terrible," and some people were like, "Oh, that looks amazing. It's like cutting edge, right?" Is that so? That's where like your impression, Dan, was when you saw them. They were like, "Wow, this is."
There was nothing else like it. That's for sure.
Okay.
I mean, I remember being a kid seeing Corvairs, and I'm just like, I wasn't a car kid. That's an unusual car.
Because you're not a car guy.
Because I'm not a car
You're
guy.
not a
Nothing's
car kid,
changed.
right?
Not a
Nothing's
car
changed.
kid grew into not a car guy.
Yeah.
Right.
Even though you raced BMX and your dad was driving. So got it. Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I'm asking this is, and know this, everyone's going to hate me for what I'm about to say, but
Again?
what
Hate
again?
mail goes to Gabe.
Yeah,
in this
yeah,
bastard.
I can't
Yeah,
wait to
I'm
read
gonna
the
say-
reviews of the show.
I'm going to say something here that's going to get everybody all pissed off and into the comments or whatever, but I'm trying to make a comparison because that's why I asked when the Corvair came out, was the reaction good as well as negative because it was unique of its kind? And I'm sorry, I'm just going to compare the two because I'm just
That's what you do.
That's what I do is compare the Corvair when it came out to when the Cybertruck came out.
Ooh.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Because
I don't know.
because
I know what you're saying,
most
but I
people
don't-
hate the Cybertruck. I think it's cool. One, because it pisses everybody off that sees one. You can call it advanced for what it is. Whatever it's EV, whatever. It's definitely unique. There's no arguing that it's unique of its kind. And I'm not saying that Cybertruck will be the Corvair in 30 years or whatever. I'm not saying that at all. But it was the kind of reaction that you got. Did the Corvair get that same kind of reaction when it came out?
I think the Corvair got a reaction at both ends of the spectrum.
Sure.
But the primary, if I remember correctly, reading some stuff, the primary criticism that the Corvair got also wasn't about its handling. It was about the gas mileage. That it didn't get the gas mileage that they were promised to get as an economy car. That was the biggest criticism in the beginning when the Corvair came out.
Small, should be fuel efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
but at that time, fuel efficient.
but they still sold millions of them.
Yeah, 6 million.
So, I mean, they sold millions and millions
They
of
sold
Corvairs.
that many Corvairs? That many
yeah.
people bought Corvairs?
Yeah.
Wow.
How many? I mean, it was definitely millions that they sold. I mean,
Oh, it was over 3 million,
Yeah.
I'm sure.
Wow.
I don't know
how
exactly.
How many years did they sell the Corvair?
10 years.
10
Yeah,
years.
it's
That's it?
A child of the 60s.
60 to 69.
69.
Oh, that's pretty
But
good.
the Cybertruck has a very polarizing effect
Sure.
because of its shape.
Sure.
The Corvair didn't have such a polarizing effect because it was sold and market it as a family car. The first one that came out was a 4-door with an 80 horsepower engine. It was a family car, and that was what it was intended to be. And people who bought it were looking for a family car.
And at low cost, $2,000.
Correct.
Right in that range.
And an economy car and a small car.
That's
And
it.
they weren't so concerned about the technology necessarily.
Yeah, well, just with the Cybertruck, it was promised that X amount of range is not getting the range, so people
Yeah.
are pissed off. That's
There
not
you
getting the
go.
range.
Same kind of thing.
So did
But everything pisses people off today.
yeah, exactly. exactly.
That's the difference. That's the difference.
So did Nader mention anything about the fuel economy not being what it was in the Congress? It was just all about safety.
No, but still, well, safety, if I remember.
Well, let me tell you a
Vince-
story
Vince
about
will know.
what
He read the book.
the auto industry intentionally introduced odometer error into their cars. So they automatically were off by 3.5% to 5%. So if you drove 1,000 or 10,000 miles, you actually drove less, like 970 miles.
Oh, so they were gaming
So
the mileage.
They were gaming the mile.
Really? That was
Really?
the thing.
Dan,
That
And
was
so
the thing.
your
This is a
warranty
shock, isn't
ran
it?
out sooner. You had to take it in
Yeah.
for service more often. Your fuel mileage was exaggerated. If you rented a car and paid a per mileage charge, you were paying more than you should have. All these things, and they claimed, the auto industry claimed, we can't fix this. Oh, we don't have the
Unfixable.
technology.
Unfixable.
So this is just an example of how they manipulated cars for their profit.
Wow.
That's
I'm
interesting.
so shocked
That
that
is
the car
interesting.
industry would do that.
It's shocking, isn't it?
Oh my
No,
god!
did
Does
did
Nader talk about that in his
I was
book?
going to say, did
That's
this
one of the
come to
things?
light
All right.
with Nader?
Yep.
He's the
He
one who
mentions that
kind
in his
of
book.
really.
Wow.
Was there another crusader like him that brought it to Congress and really held the big three to the fire for that, or no? 'Cause
Not
I
that-
haven't heard of this.
He
as a
mentions other
scandal.
people that did research and that he supports his arguments very thoroughly by
Yeah.
citing research that was done by many people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they actually were with him presenting to Congress, but his arguments are very, very well researched.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So
and backed
overall,
up.
I mean, I would have expected. Now, this is where I'm kind of surprised. I would have expected you guys would come in here and like, oh, Ralph Nader, he was a jerk. He did this wrong. He did that wrong. But you actually, from what you're saying, sounds like you have more respect for Ralph Nader than I would have expected. But it's just the fact that he just singled out Corvair when he probably should not have singled out Corvair.
Well, he had to pick one, and that's
And
what he
that was
picked.
it.
Yeah, and thank God, because now its value is held back in the collector car market.
Right.
Thank you, Ralph, for that. and all the things we've seen in car safety that
Have come along since.
this
Yeah,
book came
right,
out.
right.
But I have an interesting Ralph Nader story. Years ago, and I don't remember how long it was, maybe about 10 years ago, Nader came out with one of the books he had written. I don't even remember which book it was. And he was appearing at a local theater in West Los Angeles. So I took my book and I went down there because I wanted him to sign the book. And so I got in line, waited, got into the front, opened up the book, and I said, Ralph, I really just want to thank you for everything that you did for the Corvair. He goes, really? I said, yeah, you made it such a great collector's car.
What did he say? How did he react?
He just kind of stared at me a little blank and
Like a
said,
backhanded compliment.
yeah,
Okay.
Very good.
please sign the book. Thank you.
And did he?
Yeah.
That
Still
is
signed
okay.
it.
Nader ran for president, didn't he? One year.
Yeah.
I don't even
Yes.
remember
Yeah,
that.
I think it's
So I
a couple few
I think
times.
it's safe to say you probably wouldn't have voted for him, or would you have voted for him?
I don't know.
That would have been probably what, early 70s? Probably sometime
Greg,
in
I
the
would have been
70s,
more
my
impressed
guess.
if you got him to sign your Corvair.
That would have
I would have been a hell of a lot
That would
more
have been
impressed.
something.
That would have been awesome.
Yeah.
Your value would have been like
Oh yeah, totally.
Wow.
double the value of your Corvair, right?
but going back to it, it's because of what Nader did that actually added to the mystique or the history or whatever you
Infamy.
want to call it, of the Corvair, which made it more popular, which made people want to collect it more, and then where we are today.
I think with collector stuff, because I collect some other stuff. I collected World War II rifles for a while and stuff like that. And there is something about something that was mechanically, and I'm not saying the Corvairs, but something that was mechanically odd or didn't function correctly in the collector market. That's like, yeah, I want that, man.
Yeah.
Probably because it was a problem. They didn't make many of them.
Yeah, exactly.
And so they had to stop selling them for whatever reason.
Well,
so
and
there's
it's
so
of a
few of them,
time.
they're rare.
It's of a time and a place. It was
Right.
popular, as these gentlemen are attesting to. They sold millions of them, right?
Yep.
So it was popular, but yeah, it had its challenges. I look at it and go, an aluminum block car from that era. Are they reliable? Do they crack? Do they melt? Do they, I don't know. You would know. I mean,
No, they don't.
so you like the aluminum engine. That's
Unless
good.
they're abused, then like anything, they'll break.
So that's good. That's good for you. They're
And
just
the Corvair had two generations: the early model from
Yeah.
60 to 64, and the late model from 65 to 69. And the late model had a suspension revision that coil springs and
Changed
independent,
everything. Yeah.
and they handled great.
Stabilizer bars.
Yep.
And the thing with the Corvair is it was a family car, but they did not educate owners on how to take care of their car and how to drive it, because it had like a Porsche or a Volkswagen with the heavy rear end. It had some handling characteristics that the driver had to be aware of. Of course, the tire pressure we mentioned before. There was never any education on drivers. Drivers need a car they can get in and drive without thinking.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
And
for a
that wasn't
family
the car.
car, it's like
Exactly.
you turn the key, you put it in gear, you drive it, right?
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah, but with the Corvair went from being an economy car in the early models to a sporty car in the later models. So they changed the focus in the marketing of the car itself. As I guess kind of like the success of the purchases went. They realized that maybe the sporty option might be something that people wanted more than the economy aspect of it.
Well, and on that note, they race Corvairs.
Oh, they
I mean,
still
you'll
do.
see- yeah, you'll-
regular basis.
But even in the heyday of racing, I mean, the 60s and 70s,
Yeah, I've seen old racing
They're
footage
old-
with a pack of Corvairs.
absolutely, yeah. The
Cor-
Corvairs around the track.
A Corvair just ran in Bonneville on Monday, and if I remember correctly, went 174.216 miles per hour.
Yeah, I sent
Wow.
I sent the photos to you guys. Did you see them?
I didn't look at them
No.
yet.
No,
Because
I
it was a
texted it to
Corvair.
you.
Sorry.
I got to check
You
that
guys-
out.
Yeah, they ignore me all the time.
No, I didn't ignore you.
Yeah.
'Cause I ignored you because it was a Corvair.
That's what I was going to say. There we go.
Sorry.
But it's a beautiful.
I'll look
side
at
of
it
the
now,
Corvair.
though. I'll look at it now.
Yeah. And if I remember, because I saw the back and forth between you guys and the club, and it was still a rear engine, mostly not stock. I mean, it was not modified, but it's still rear engine, air cooled motor, and it went 174 at Bonneville. Pretty impressive.
That is impressive.
That is impressive.
Yeah.
For that era car.
Now, the Corvair Society of America, our parent organization, has a convention every year. They just had one in Dayton in July, and the next one coming up in May is going to be in Santa Maria, California, up our way. And at every convention, we have an autocross.
Oh, cool.
And there's an autocross track at the Santa Maria Airport where our convention will be held. And we're going to have an autocross
there you go,
competition.
Gabe.
And
I'm not buying a Corvair.
You can take my 61, take it out there on the autocross.
If you don't care about being broken,
you
I will definitely
survive.
drive it because I will break your car.
So if you just want to see them race just to see what they can do, this is a local opportunity to do
How
that.
big do these events get?
Well, the convention can be 300 or 400 people.
Okay.
We haven't had one on the West Coast for a long time. I think 2008 we had one in
here,
Ventura here
Ventura.
at the fairgrounds.
Oh, wow.
But our chapter is hosting it, co-hosting with Greg's chapter and other chapters. But it's a 4-day event. We have concours car judging. We have an economy run, a road rally. We have the autocross. We do tours of the local area. And it's a huge event. And we're really looking forward to it.
And people are going to come in from all over the country.
No,
right?
Yeah.
Mostly West Coast,
Mostly
but
West
there
Coast.
are,
Well, with you being local up there, is this going to like take over your life for a few months, basically?
Yeah, we're meeting tonight. We have a Zoom call for the
There you
committee
go.
to meet and talk about our progress. But
Well, you
yes,
guys have been talking about it already. I've already seen you guys in some of the email exchanges.
correct.
I'm
And
impressed how
it's-
organized you are because most car clubs are not like that, you know.
I mean,
Engineers, Gabe. Engineers.
Oh, no, I
Yeah.
get that for sure.
what's great about the convention too, which will, once again will be coming up in May of 2025 in Santa Maria, is that you will be able to see just about every type of Corvair there, which is great. Besides the early models and the late models, you'll be able to see the wagons. There'll usually the wagons there. There'll be the trucks, ram sides or load sides. There might even be some. There'll obviously be the vans, whether they be the window vans or cargo vans.
Greenbrier was
Greenbrier,
that one?
yeah.
Greenbrier.
And hopefully,
cool.
hopefully you'll see some of the ultra vans, which are the large.
They made a Corvair van?
Yeah.
Yeah.
A van and a
Didn't even
pickup.
know
Pickup
that.
truck,
That's
yeah.
crazy. I never even.
Yeah.
I
Never knew
honestly,
that.
I had a 61 for a little while, and they're really fun.
Engine's still in the rear.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Well, the
Wow.
ram side is the one where the whole bed opens up because you can drop the sides down.
No, not
is that the one?
It's
Which one is that one?
The ramp side has the side drops down into a ramp.
one side.
Oh,
one
is that what
side
it?
ramp.
Okay,
So
that's
you can
what it is.
roll
All right.
things up into the bed.
That's what it is.
And then here,
It's
the
pretty
same-
cool.
Going back to what you said, the same thing on the truck, whether it be the ramp side or the load side, which does not have a ramp. The engine's in the back.
That's wild.
I mean, I can appreciate that. That's pretty cool. I mean, it's different, totally different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, different characteristics, different everything. I could get with that.
Yeah, the Greenbriers are pretty cool too. There aren't many of those around anymore, are there? You just don't see them.
Never even heard of one.
I saw them at the Conejo car show maybe a year ago. It's gorgeous.
There's a lot of them in SoCal.
Are there?
Yeah, there really are. I see a lot of them. There's a good group of guys out there
How
that get
big
together regularly.
Is your chapter or your organization?
Our chapter is as large as I can remember it. We have 51 members right now from generally San Luis Obispo and Santa Barbara counties, but we have a few members scattered in Nevada and other areas.
Are there any women in your organization?
Yes.
Yes.
You got a few?
There are. Surprisingly, we have a few active women. And
okay.
Greg, how big is your chapter?
Right now, well, we have paid members. We have about 70 paid members, but really maybe about 20 active, really.
Okay.
And then the core group, which maybe about 6.
And there are about 5 chapters in the LA area.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's
wow.
There's Corsa West.
They're out in the San Fernando Valley.
There's
Yeah.
San Diego has a club.
San Diego has 2 clubs. One's North County, one's South County. North County is called Coyote Corvair, and then the South County is called San Diego Corvair Club. There's one in Inland Empire.
Wow.
They're out that way too.
Would you say the West Coast has got a bigger presence than maybe the East Coast or the Midwest?
No, I wouldn't say that.
Opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
More popular back east, huh?
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
Midwest and the East Coast.
Interesting.
Big Corvair scene.
So do they have a national convention that everybody kind of flocks to?
They do, yes, every year.
Oh, wow.
And that's the one that's going to be in Santa Maria next
That's
year.
correct.
Oh, that's the national one.
That's-
Oh, wow.
That was one that was in Dayton.
In
right?
Dayton, right.
Correct.
Got it. Okay.
Just finished up last week. or
Wow.
Yep. So,
Did you guys go to that? The Dayton one?
I didn't go. A couple of the members of my chapter went because we're planning the convention for next year. So they went to see what it's all about.
Sure.
Am I tripping? Where have you guys been hiding? I've never heard of this many Corvair people. I thought there was like 7 in the whole country. I mean, you guys, I would imagine you guys probably just kind of just do your own thing and, because I never see them at the Roadster show. I never see them at local car meets. I see one, and he comes out every blue moon or whatever, but I guess you guys just do your own thing, really. Pretty much,
we do, and we're delinquent in that. We should be out there more in these shows where there's other makes and models being shown, but I don't know why.
I do think one thing that may change that dynamic a little bit is that there are younger Corvair fans coming in every day.
Very much so.
And that's going to change.
Yeah.
That's the part that kind of caught me off guard. But then I was thinking about it. I was like, it totally makes sense because the younger generation, especially in even younger than millennials, have never heard of like Ralph Nader. Have also never heard like the Corvair was a piece of crap. Like I was told my whole youth. And just get a big block Chevy, Camaro, the typical hot rod variety. But they didn't grow up with that, So now you have a new generation of like, wow, this is, and they want the new cool thing that no one knows about.
Right.
The Corvair seems like the prime candidate for that. Actually,
Mm-hmm. The reaction I've had from some of the younger folks. I get my daughter's boyfriend. You guys met Jake.
Yeah, Jake.
Yeah, he came to you guys for help because he's restoring a 65 turbo convertible. And the one thing that I've heard from the younger generation is they love the Gen 2. It's just got that swooping kind of lower front, more you can do with it, not as boxy. They tend to they gravitate toward the 65 to 69.
It's a sporty model.
It's a sporty model.
It's a beautiful body style.
It is.
It really is.
Oh yeah, and I've had people come up and say, "Hey, this Camaro has an engine in the back," because it's very similar to Camaro.
Yeah, there's certain lines about it that look like a Camaro.
We had a '67 Camaro in our last show. Put it right next to the Corvair, just so you could see the similarities between this. And the Camaro came out first.
Yeah, the younger.
the Corvair came out first, not the Camaro.
Yeah, the younger generation that are getting into Corvairs right now, they're more apt to customize the Corvair also.
Yeah,
so that's kind of it. And they're also not necessarily club joiners.
Mm-hmm.
But you do see them out there.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
So the tough question for both of you gentlemen, you can only have one Corvair. What year is it?
That's a tough question.
I wanted to make the
There's quite a variety. Now,
but you can only pick one.
I
You're
absolutely
going to live with it the rest of your life. One
absolutely
Corvair.
wanted a '67 convertible when I first got my first Corvair. I couldn't find one because the production volumes were dropping off drastically in the late '60s.
Okay.
So I ended up with a '66 convertible, which is the best I could do, and it's a very good car. But now I'm jonesing for a wagon.
There you go.
61 or 62 wagon.
Wow.
Where's Hellman?
They're becoming more popular.
What is the rarest?
This
What's the rarest Corvair?
there two models come to mind. I can't tell you which exactly, but the 62 Monza wagon was a very low production model, as well as the load side was a
Right.
version of the pickup that
Without the ramp.
didn't have the ramp on it. It was
Okay.
a very
Those are
low
rare,
production
too.
model. So those are two of the top lowest production.
And maybe
Okay.
inching in there might be like a 65 van.
Oh yeah,
Which I think they were low production and more rare if you got an 8-door.
Oh,
Wow.
Yeah.
okay.
But
So
getting-
same question for you, Greg. You get to pick one. You're going to be married to it for the rest of your life.
Well, that,
What is it?
what's getting,
What is it?
that's a hard thing, but I would probably keep my 66 140.
66 140.
Yeah,
Okay,
that-
that's
I-
not a convertible.
No, it's not.
Or
It's
a Monza
no.
or a
I don't-
Spider or whatever.
I'm not necessarily a convertible guy. I don't like the sun beating down on my
Yeah,
head.
yeah.
But I have a 66, a late model 66.
It's a Monza, right?
Yeah, Monza, yeah, Monza 140.
140.
So
So
I'll probably
you
keep
guys
that.
need to educate me a little bit. Okay, so the Spider is a convertible?
No.
No?
The Spider is a turbo.
Okay, Spider's a
And
turbo.
that-
it came
that's
as a convertible or hardtop.
Yeah.
Okay, and then
the-
what's a
the-
Monza?
The Spider is actually an early model turbo,
Okay.
not the later
Gen
model
1.
turbo.
Yeah,
a Gen 1 turbo is a
Corsa
Spider.
was Gen 2, right?
Corsa is Gen 2.
What's a
correct.
convertible called? Just a convertible, or does it have a name?
No, convertible.
Just a convertible.
Yeah.
Okay, and then what's a Spider? Isn't there a
Well,
Spider?
the Spider is the turbo
For the
Okay.
Gen 1.
for the Gen
or,
1.
or Monza. I'm sorry, the Monza. What's a
The
Monza?
Monza is more like just either it'd be like, for example, the 60. This is the 61 that you have. That's a Monza.
That's a Monza.
Yeah.
Okay.
It'd be like the
It's a trim level.
yeah,
Yeah.
trim
Oh,
level.
okay.
That's
it's a
what it
trim
is.
level.
Good, that's a good way to say
So
it.
it's a
yeah.
little fancier.
The higher trim level.
Okay.
Yeah. You had the 500.
Corvair came
700,
out with
900.
the 500, 700, and then the 900
900.
was the Monza.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the Spider became a separate model. It started out as a 900 Monza Spider. Then it became a separate model, the Spider.
Are there any other nomenclature that are unique to the Corvair?
Corsa is a Corvair model, as well as
Oh.
Corvair Society of America. The word Corsa is also a designation of a 65 or 66 Corvair, top of the line.
So it's a trim level too. A
It came
Corsa.
with, it came in a performance level. It came with
Yeah.
either the 140
Oh,
horse or
okay.
the turbo.
Okay.
There's also another Corvair. It's a 4-door.
Right.
And those cars, especially the 65 through 67 4-doors,
Those are great.
they maintain the same beautiful lines as the coupe. They're beautiful. They don't have a B pillar when you roll the front and back
Oh,
windows
that's
down.
cool.
It's wide open like an Impala.
That's cool.
And a 67 4-door is a very rare car,
Yeah.
which is my third choice.
You only get one.
4-door.
Just remind you about the question.
So conversely, how many Corvairs do each of you own?
One.
Just one?
I just one.
How about you, Greg?
I have 2 right now.
You have 2?
Yeah.
So you're not going nuts. You're not like, I have half a dozen of them.
No, I don't have the
Okay.
space or anything
Okay.
like that. No.
You're practical people.
There's a
I got
guy
it.
in our chapter who lives in Nevada. I don't know why he joined our chapter, but we thank him for doing it.
Yeah.
And he's got 30.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my
30?
God, 30.
He's a completionist,
30
right?
or
I need
40,
like
yeah.
every variant, right?
Yeah, he has to have one of each. I don't know, but
We know some people who are like that, right? Like
Oh, we know a lot of
Craig,
people like
Craig's
that.
a completionist,
Yeah.
right? Craig Lichtenstein.
So I have a question, not as hard as Dan's question. Is that if somebody was interested, young or old, in getting a Corvair or interested in getting a Corvair, advice would you give them to get started, to be headed in the right direction?
The advice I give would be to search out your local club and join it.
right on.
That's really the first thing. You join Corsa, the Corvair Society of America. Not that I'm trying to push that, but we both were actually directors for Corsa for years, and but it actually is a good organization because you can make contacts through Corsa or the local club.
Yeah.
You can get a lot of education on what you need to know.
Yeah.
A lot of help.
Great
So
resource.
that's
Yeah.
really it. It's the
Yeah.
resource and the people that really.
I would agree with that.
That's the best thing
I would say
to
with
do.
a lot of car communities is get in with, because get informed. Don't just go look on Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or whatever and just go, oh, that looks cool, I'll get that. And then next thing you know, you get a turd on your hands.
there's so many
and-
gotchas,
yeah,
like, why didn't
yeah.
you get one of those for? Why didn't you get one of these?
And there's a couple other things I would say. First of all, I wanted to play guitar when I was a kid, and so I thought, okay, I better learn on a classical and then move up to electric because I really wanted to play electric. And I asked somebody, and they said, no, if you want to play electric, play electric. So if you want a Corvair, find out which one you want and buy it. Don't buy one as a starter car and then try to find the one you want later. Get what you want right away. That's one piece of advice. Maybe it's not always possible, but do the best you can. And secondly, don't expect any mechanic to be able to fix your Corvair.
Oh, yeah.
Don't take it to the local guy down the street. He'll screw it up. Like Greg says, get involved in the club, make the connections, find the people who know what they're doing.
There still are some good Corvair shops in SoCal, right?
I don't know.
No,
There
not so much.
There are no shops in SoCal that work on Corvairs. No,
Really?
no brick and mortar shops anymore now.
Well, I will say this for the
There
61,
are guys that work on them though.
Yeah, the 61 guy here in Ventura did a great job with it. In fact, he's helping Jake with his 65 Turbo. He helped with the 61. He's probably going to help get the 69. Ed over at Neighborhood Car Care.
So he knows Corvairs.
He knows. In fact, as you pull into his lot, you'll look in the back and you'll see a bunch of Corvairs that he's raced or he's working on. So he knows them.
We need to know who that is.
Yeah, I'll get you.
He's
that name.
the last of the Mohicans.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, I'm wrong. There is one guy. He's more of a Porsche guy though, but he does work on Corvairs, and he's over in Orange County. His name escapes me at the moment, but there is one shop that actually works on Corvairs.
Okay.
Now that I think about it.
But if somebody was a member of your club, you could probably get that information through one of the members that either knows the guy or has his number or whatever, right? That's the good thing about being part of a club, right?
Where I live in the South Bay, in Long Beach area, down there, and Santa Monica, there are about in the valley. There are about 4 guys that can be mobile Corvair mechanics. That they're trying to get on the list is difficult because those guys are really busy and they're all really good.
Mm-hmm.
But we do know we have their numbers, and the people call me all the time. You got a number of the Corvair guys? Can you give me their numbers? They say, well, here you go. Here's the numbers. Here's the best way to get a hold of them. Be patient. You're going to wait. If you don't work on your car, you're going to wait in line.
Yeah.
So
Vince, do you wrench on your own cars being an engineer?
I do mostly. I haven't built an engine yet, but
you do maintenance, and if
Yes.
something breaks, you can replace it or fix it generally.
And we're fortunate to have a club member up in Atascadero, California, who runs a Corvair repair shop out of his house.
Oh, okay.
there you go.
So,
And then, Greg, do you wrench on your Corvair?
Not the mechanical stuff, no.
Okay.
No, but I have worked on my Corvairs over the years, and
Okay.
doing whatever I can do.
And I will say
do
this:
it.
I don't think the Corvair is a complicated car. If you want to learn and wrench, that's a car you can do it on.
Yeah.
Most cars of that era. I mean,
Yeah.
I grew up in that era, and most cars of that era, it's like, rebuilding a carburetor isn't that hard.
No.
I mean, you can do it. It's, especially with YouTube, right? You can do anything with
Yeah.
YouTube.
Well, and you just look at the engine bay. You just open it up, and boom, everything's right there.
Well, yeah.
You can reach it. It's not crammed full of
Right,
stuff.
right.
The best way to learn is to take something apart.
Sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of carburetors, the Corvair has a very interesting carburetor evolution.
Yeah.
And there's a video on our Corsa website where one of our guys talks about the evolution of the Corvair carburetor over the 10 years of production.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting, some very subtle changes, but some very important changes. So if anyone tells you that all Corvair carburetors are the same, they're a liar, and you don't want to take your car there.
The carburetors, my understanding is that we're different every single year.
Wow.
So for example, if you had a 66, you don't want to put a 60 carburetor on a 66.
Yeah.
But if you do put whatever carburetors you put on, you need to at least make sure that they're a matching set, because you'll have better success in getting them on and running.
And I think one of the things Jake again, he's working on the 65 Turbo. He went to you guys and quickly found out that the turbo carburetor that was on the car, which we would have thought was original, was a 64 Turbo.
There you go.
It was a YT or whatever it is, and he needed some other Y configuration of the turbo. So in his is 65. So he had to go out and buy, I don't know how many straws. It was like $400 or $500 for a turbo carb to match what he needed for the 65. The one that was on it before wouldn't have pumped enough fuel. It just wasn't wasn't going to have the right.
Which proves the point maybe that somebody that didn't know what they were doing put
That's
that
right.
turbo on the car thinking, well, it'll work.
Yeah.
Because it's for a turbo. It's been on a Corvair. I fixed it. I'll put it on, but it's not the right one.
And it
Just
will
because
work.
it will work, but it
it's-
doesn't make it right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, you won't get the performance out of it that you wanted.
I don't think there's a lot of cars that could say that in a 10-year run that they had 10 different sets of carburetors minimum, maybe even more with model variants. Because you said yours is a quad carb?
Yes.
Quad carb.
Correct.
Wow.
Yeah, and in '66, the preliminary smog equipment was required in California on all cars. So Corvair had to have some modifications to the carburetors for smog, and then the smog equipment evolved through the end of the production model, 69.
Wow.
Actually, I think that
So that changed the carburetor.
that whole thing about the parts changing each year is actually more common than you think, especially
Really?
back in that. Yes, because you look at even with like Bel Airs and Novas and stuff like that, like 1 or 2 years they might have been the same, but they don't keep the same, like just little nuances here and there.
I knew cosmetically and body wise, but you're saying the motors and the carbs and all that were like, it's
it
gotta.
might not be a different carb every year for 10
Yeah.
years, but there are some nuances with parts and carburetors.
Interesting.
And you say something about carburetors is like, there's not a lot of people that actually can rebuild a carburetor anymore, or even know what a carburetor is. Yes,
Really?
you go try to find guys, they're dying off, and they're not. Again, we're talking about restoration trades.
We've done we've
right?
done this before.
A lot of people, what we're finding out is they can't get their carburetors tuned, like just tuned, not even rebuilt, just tuned.
Yeah.
So that is, if you want to pick up a trade that's dying and that you want to make good money on, and have everybody at your beck and call, tune a carburetor.
Really?
And you're
Interesting.
nodding yes. And Vince has been going, yep, I'm dealing with that. Are you dealing with that
Well,
now, or
I rebuilt mine myself because I'm a puzzle solver, so I can do that. But we do have a guy, Wolf Enterprises, is a Corvair carburetor rebuilder. He does a pretty darn good job. I think he might be in Florida.
Okay.
Just ship your carbs off. He sends them back. They bolt on and they run.
That's
Once you get involved in like the Corvair clubs, there are guys all over the country that do specializations, and you know who then to talk to or who to send your thing to. That'll bring it back.
Well, I'm on a first name basis with Clark's Corvair, especially after working on that 61. I
Yeah.
was on the phone with them like twice a day.
And they're great.
They're great.
And I have to say, I admire Jake for taking on the project he did,
Yeah.
completely rebuilding a 65 turbo. This is his first Corvair, right?
It's stripped down. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's his first car.
He just
period.
jumped right into
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Well, it's funny when that car was sitting here in the warehouse for I don't know how many years, and I said, what are we going to do with these? We started selling off some of the cars. So I called up Jake because he wanted a motorcycle and his mom wouldn't let him get him one. And my daughter, his girl, they're dating, wouldn't let him have one either. So I said, how about this? We have a 65 turbo convertible. How about that be your project? He goes, well, I'll do that as long as you help me do it.
Right on.
Cool.
So that's how so it's the two of us. We're working on it together. And
he went from wanting a motorcycle to a Corvair.
well, it had to be a car, and he wanted a project. He wanted to do something and work with his hands.
And that's his first car?
First car.
You said
I
it's-
mean, first at his own. It's his. I mean, it's not like
a
he's
hand-me-down?
driving his
Oh,
parents'
got
cars
it,
or
got it.
anything.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's his car. And so, it's stripped down. That thing is nut and bolt taken apart.
Those 65 turbos are pretty desirable.
Yeah,
in
it's a
and of
fun car.
themselves.
Yeah.
And he's got you to mentor him when you know something about Corvairs, so that's helpful to have someone to hold your hand.
And if I don't know,
he's screwed.
We know. I knew something was coming from the gallery. So, but I mean, in a way, he could be screwed because if I can't, but lucky we do know somebody who's Ed's going to help us do the mechanicals on it.
Yeah, but now you have these two gentlemen.
And that's
a great,
right.
a great
that's right.
resource.
And
so,
it's funny
yeah.
because when this process started, Jake called me up one day. He goes, "Hey, I found a bunch of guys. They know exactly what they're doing. They're super nice and da 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 da." Turns out to be you guys.
Oh,
he
there you
said
go.
that about us?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
geez.
you did.
Fooled
He goes,
him.
"Oh man, they know a lot. They're super nice." And da, da. I ask dumb questions and they answer them. They're not getting.
That's cool.
That was you guys.
It's unfortunate that he's not closer to us, so he could come to our meetings in person.
Yeah,
But that's we do what we can.
yeah. Well, you helped me out with the 61.
Yeah.
Hey, so are you and Jake gonna bring your Corvairs out, or best Corvair out to the show next year in May?
Well, the 61 will definitely. 65, I don't know if it'll be ready yet. It would be nice if it is, but I mean, right? We're expecting the body back in the next couple of weeks, all painted. Motor's gone through, transaxle's gone through. I mean, I guess it's possible.
Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. I'll tell you this though: I'm aiming for the 61 to be there, so that'll be there, and I want the 69.
That would be nice.
The black
be
one?
there. The black one, the black on black. Because that one, I think that'll be a fun car to have there. But that's my goal.
You gonna autocross it?
Well, yeah, as long as we bring a flatbed, because that's the only way it's going to get out of there.
I
if
got a
try
trailer.
to-
We can tow it.
I just want to see what it feels like compared to the 61.
It's not a bad drive from here to Santa Maria, but
No,
if you can't drive it, you can always trailer it. There'll be accommodation for trailer.
yeah, no, I'll definitely try and drive it. That's gonna be mine.
The late models, the 69, it drives considerably different than the 61.
Yeah, I would figure.
Yeah.
Just everything's changed on
Yeah.
it from 61 to 69.
It's the late models they're nice feeling cars.
Yeah.
You know, when you get behind they're really nice to drive.
Well, I say the 61. The thing I notice about it is, and I was warned. Ed warned me. He goes, "You want to put some weight in the front, in that frunk. It's empty, it's light, and I think that's part of what you feel when you're kind of doing this down the road. If you put some weight in it," he goes, I took the spare. I always take the spare out of the back, and I put the spare in the front to get some weight to help with the.
You're dragging your ass down the road, basically.
Yeah.
So gotta get some even out that weight, right?
So I can't wait to see what the 61 and the 69 feel like compared to each other.
Well, if you do put
You'll
weight
drive
in,
it, won't you, when I get it going? Sure. You should at least drive one. Especially, I think you guys have made progress on him because he was pretty.
I will not buy one.
And no, you don't have to buy one, but you're not even willing to drive it. So we got to get you behind the wheel just so you can say I drove a Corvair.
No, I have no problem driving a Corvair. There's the times that when you asked me to drive it, we were in a hurry to go get somewhere, and I was just like, just drive. Let's just go.
Okay.
But I will drive it. I'll drive the black one. The black one's kind of cool.
Yeah.
So
I want to drive the.
I'll drive anything. I'll drive anything.
we just got to. I think you've started the process of converting him to a
Not
Corvair.
a chance.
Not to buy one, but just to more love.
I'd consider one with a rotary in it, maybe.
He drives a Tesla, so
non-car
anything's got to be a step up from that,
exactly.
right? Even a Corvair.
That's not the only car I own, Dan. So just
That's true. That's true. You get points for that.
You should really get that 69 up to the convention in 25.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Because people will want to see that just because of the year, because of the production number.
And the color combination's rare.
Yeah, it is. I guess what I was told was the 69 GM had tons of green paint, so most of the 69s are green metallic.
Yeah. I think they 69 primarily were two colors, green and maybe like a goldish color, I think was the other.
Yeah, that was a popular color.
Yeah.
But that green color, you see it on Impalas too,
Yeah.
Chevy models.
Yeah. They just wanted to use up the paint, basically.
They had a lot of paint, a lot of that green paint. Yeah. But the black paint, tuxedo black, is the only Corvair color that was the same for every model year. Tuxedo black went
across the board.
And that's the original paint that you have on there.
It is.
So it's lacquered. It's the original. That could be shined up. So
Yep.
At least it was the same name color. A lot of
Yeah.
colors had different names,
Yeah.
but they were similar in color.
Yeah, and I was told that if it was black on black, it had to be special ordered. And it was. Because I went back and pulled the paperwork and I saw you paid extra.
cool.
Was there anything else on that 69 that's special order? Is it a 110 or Or
It's the 110.
110, okay.
Yeah, it's the 110. There's a whole list of things that he purchased on the paperwork. So I've got all the original paperwork on it.
It'd be interesting. It'd be just interesting to see what else was added to that as opposed to just being, just off the line.
You should definitely bring that car because that is a rare, super rare car.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, people need to see these cars. We talked about this on our last show. I was like, one thing I hate is when people get these cars and they never take it anywhere. They don't do anything.
They
with
hoard them.
Yeah.
It's worse than hoarding it because you're robbing people the privilege and kids the privilege of seeing these things and seeing what's possible to do or to attain what's out there. And I think people want, like you're saying, want to see a rare car like that. It's better sitting, at the show for somebody to look at once in a blue moon versus in a warehouse where just rotting away.
If for any reason you don't get it running, literally take it to the show and tow it up there.
Put it on a flatbed and take it up there and just that'd be fun.
Just show it. Just show
With
it.
the dust. I won't clean it.
I think
just
you
show
can,
it- show
you
it
can
as
at least
it is.
clean the car. I mean, come on. I think you can get that thing running.
think
Just do
so.
the basic service. It's not like it's a crazy car, and it's not like it's been taken apart.
No, the only problem is I found out with working on the 61, it took us 6 months. And the reason was every piece of rubber, every hose,
It took you a long time to get all that
gas
stuff.
tanks, fuel lines.
Yep.
Everything had to be gone through on that thing. And even some of the wiring, you take it and crack.
Yep.
You got to replace, some
Maybe this one
wires.
just get it running, just to get it on the trailer and get it off the trailer.
Yeah.
It's just let
Just
people
enough
hear.
to start it up. And
Yeah.
But that's my plan. So
Be nice.
it'll be fun.
Be
Does
nice
it
to
have all
see
the
that.
smog equipment still on it? Do you know?
I have no idea. That thing's been sitting up up on the lift. I've never seen it on the ground. So
You may find interesting things when you take it off the lift.
maybe.
If
Why
you
is
can get
it?
it off the lift.
Yeah.
It was last registered 75 or 6.
Oh my goodness.
And it has
Wow.
82,000 original miles on it.
Wow.
They had shoulder belts in those. That
Yeah, and they had.
They clipped to the the headliner.
Yeah, I saw that when I got it. As I put a ladder and I opened it up and I got into the driver's seat and I'm sitting there like this, and all I could see was this thing hanging next to me, and I'm like, "What is that?" And it's the seat belt.
Wow.
It slides into like a little clip.
A ceiling belt.
It's a shoulder belt. Yeah. 'Cause
Wow.
they think that's for the last 2 or 3 years. Chevy didn't make any changes to the Corvair except those that were required by
By law.
Yeah.
Wow.
Shoulder belts was one of them. Headrest was 69 because that was required.
Wow.
So,
Well, and the headrest it's kind of built into the seat, right?
yeah.
It's one
No,
of
it's
Is
on
it
a
a
post.
separate?
I think it's on a post.
Oh, I say I showed you. I haven't seen. I think I sat in it once, and it's hard because you got to get up on a ladder and climb up onto the hydraulic lift and open the door without killing yourself, and then try and slide into the car. I will say this: the back of the car, just like the 61, the whole back seat, Ralph Nader articles.
Oh my God, that's
Oh,
great.
really?
Magazines, articles.
That's
anything
where they
Ralph
all
Nader.
went.
That's where they went. They're in the back seat of that car. The 61 had them too. I'm like, look
Obsession?
at all this Nader stuff.
Well,
So, yeah.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions about the Corvair?
I don't know, Vince has
now
got
that you're a convert.
Yeah, right, easy. Vince has got a card there. The list. Is there anything on that card that you wanted to talk about?
I think I covered everything that was in my notes.
All right.
But I do want to. I guess there's one thing I'll mention. It's really not a Corvair thing, but it's another example of the auto industry's mindset. The 1953 Buick Roadmaster had power brakes, and the O-ring seal in the power brake booster was faulty, and the brake fluid would get sucked into the engine and burn.
Yikes.
And then suddenly you'd have no brakes. And the Buick denied any, they didn't even warn the owners that this was happening.
Oh, damn.
When this would happen, you just take your car in, and the Buick dealer would order parts that were back ordered, and your car would sit in the dealership for months.
And they probably
months.
replace it with the same parts.
And yes, there was no
same problem.
There was no warning of the owners that this could possibly happen. There was no acknowledgement or taking responsibility for this safety hazard. It's just the auto industry back in the 50s and 60s was just
The Wild West.
You know,
Bunch of
I-
shysters.
I love it now when you
Wild
get service bulletins. You think a car in for
Yeah.
service, and then you look. I just came for a maintenance service, or whatever. Then you see all this like TSB things. I'm like, and just kind of like underneath it all, and it's just like some kind of like seatbelt replacement. I'm like, hey, wait, what? You replaced my seatbelt? Oh yeah, it was part of the thing. I'm like, why did you replace my seatbelt that I've been driving with for like 4 years already?
Because it would have killed you if you got in
No,
an
exactly.
accident.
Right.
They're making these fixes
Yeah.
and these changes underneath, the radar, so people won't make a big stink about it. But yeah,
Have you noticed when you take your car in for service, they are required to check your tire pressure?
So you can't drive
Oh,
out
yeah.
in an unsafe vehicle as you
Right.
leave the
Imagine
property.
that. Checking your tire pressure
yeah.
is now required by law
Yeah.
when you take your car
Or
into a
tire
dealer
tread.
for-
If you don't have enough tire tread, they won't
Now,
let you drive out.
If Chevy had done that for the Corvair, just think of all the lives they would have saved.
Well, now we have the Takeda airbags that are going to kill us all, right? So if you have a Japanese car, you're gonna get metal shards and you're going to die from your airbag.
It's a good thing
Right.
I removed my airbags in my car. So,
You did.
Uh-huh.
well, you have to when you replace the steering wheel because if you put aftermarket
Oh, that's
steering
true.
wheel, you don't have.
That's true.
There you go.
So, but I willingly did that. I can suffer the consequences.
Now, did you like slam into a wall gently to get it to deploy, and then you
Can you
then
slam
take it
into
out?
a wall gently? Is that possible?
2 mile an hour.
I would love to
collision.
see that video.
Yep.
No, not hard enough.
It's like boom. It's like the 1 inch impact.
You can see Gabe like slamming into a wall over and over again to
Thank God I haven't crashed in any
no,
walls.
okay, good. All right.
Well, this has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It's great talking about the
Yeah,
Corvair.
no. I'm so glad you guys came on.
Thank you for the invitation.
It's
Appreciate it.
definitely fun to have you guys on here and talk about Corvairs. Enlightening for me because I thought it was going to be more, Ralph Nader bashing. But I love the fact that you're reading the book the second time and there's a whole new appreciation for what he was doing, not just slamming the Corvair.
I recommend this book to Corvair owners, and I urge you, if you do read it all the way through. It gets kind of dry and slow at times, but it gives you it reveals that dryness reveals the depth of his research. You really get a sense that he did his homework. And the only way is, you can't just read the first chapter about the Corvair and say, "Oh, okay, I read the book." No, I know.
Right.
Don't do it justice. You got to read. The
I
whole
appreciate you
thing.
guys coming on because I had low expectations, because I didn't know what a Corvair owner was. I mean, I did. I was completely transparent here. But no, you guys have, if you want to say I convert, I was like, I'm now
Interested anyway.
Interested. You guys are very interesting. You're not the nerds that I thought you would have been.
They're cooler
Well,
nerds.
that-
dude.
That's a compliment, by the way.
There's a compliment somewhere in there, but no, I'm seriously though. I mean, I learned a lot because I know a lot of people like myself think the same way about the Corvair. But if they knew half of this stuff, they'd be like, "Oh, that's kind of cool." You know,
yeah.
So I learned a lot that I didn't know about the Corvair.
Well, you didn't have to convert me. I always thought the Corvair was an interesting car. I didn't want to own one, but growing up with them and seeing them all over, my neighborhoods, it's like, it's an interesting car.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're quirky and interesting, and I like quirky and interesting, you know.
And if you're young and you want to get into the collector car hobby, this is one way you could do it.
It's a
Corvair is a
good place
great
to
way to
start.
get into it.
Yeah.
And not a lot of other people around. You're going to be driving Corvair.
That's
so if
for
you want
sure.
something unique
Yeah.
and cool,
Yeah.
that's
They
cool.
draw attention at every show you go to because it's usually the only one or two there.
Oh, before we wrap, I have a question for you in particular. Simca. You're into quirky cars? Do you know what a Simca is?
I know the name Simca. I can't say I can picture one.
Okay.
I know of them.
How about you, Greg?
No,
Ever
I
hear of
don't.
it?
No.
Okay. I have a business partner. His first car was a Simca, and he's from the United States. It's a French two-stroke car. And every guest we get on, especially vintage stuff, I'm like, Simca. And
We should
so
have
far, no
your
one.
business partner on to talk about the Simca
Yeah,
because
we
apparently
should.
he's the only one that
Yeah,
knows
no
of a Simca
kidding.
or has owned
No
a Simca.
kidding. A two-stroke, distributed by Chrysler, French car in the United States, probably 70s.
Yeah, I know the name Simca.
Yeah.
I'm sure I've seen one in pictures.
Is there a Simca club?
They're funky. Oh, yeah.
Is he the only
They're-
member?
Wow.
Or no?
I love our non-car guy.
They're
I know.
funky cars.
He's testing people
Yes.
in car knowledge.
Yes.
Got to have a non-car guy in every car
Yeah.
group.
"Quote unquote" non-car guy.
It's a marketing term.
Absolutely. GM came up with that one.
Well, but I can pass for it because I drive a Corolla. There's no cool car sitting in my garage like Gabe. Gabe has tons of cool cars. CJ has cool cars. I'm like, I got a Corolla. So
I think Dan's asking for somebody to give him a cool
I
car.
think so. You can start with a Corvair. Absolutely.
sign me up. Let's,
If you're interested, I know where you can get a couple of
Oh,
products.
boy. Yeah. Maybe that's 69. I don't know.
Yeah,
CJ.
there
Maybe
you go.
that's
You can help me
69.
with it.
Yeah.
You can change out the gas tank. That's the first thing I'm doing.
Fun times.
One of the things that I'd like to mention before this closes out is that when we didn't talk about is that there are a couple of Corvair forums too, which are really great to go to,
Yeah.
to talk to people about their cars and good resources for not only the history of the car, but the mechanical use of the car. And one is called the Corvair Center Forum, and the other is called the Corvair Forum. So Corsa, the Corvair Society of America, operates the Corvair Center Forum. And like I said, those are just great places, great resources for people to talk about everything and anything on the Corvair.
We should put the links to them in the
I was
description.
just thinking about the same thing. I mean,
We'll put links to all that stuff in our
Okay.
description. Just
yeah,
get them.
put it up on the screen or look, for anybody in the podcast. If they want to reach you guys, if they want to get information, how to join the club, how would they contact you guys?
Well, the best way is to go to our website, which is centralcoastcorsa.org.
Okay.
Perfect.
And,
And there's got to be a contact
and
link
I-
on there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think the Corsa website, Greg, is it
Corvair.org.
Corvair.org? If you search on Corvair, you do a Google search, you'll get all this stuff.
Start there.
We have Corsa has a YouTube channel with a bunch of videos on technical stuff, like the one I mentioned about carburetors throughout the years and other technical issues. And
I actually watched one of those when I was trying to do the interior on the 61. You guys had a really nice instructional video on how to take off the upholstery, put the padding on. It was really well done. Yeah, I think it was one of your yearly gatherings where they had a whole tech shop. It was really well
Probably
done.
so.
Yeah. All right.
We'll put those links in the description.
Yeah, definitely. All right.
Great, thanks.
Greg, thanks for coming up from Santa Monica.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Vince, thanks for driving down from Arroyo Grande. Really appreciate
fun
it.
to
I'm
be
glad
here.
to have you guys on here. So,
Absolutely.
all right.
A lot of fun.
Yep. Anything else, guys? That's it for the Corvair.
Just all the usual stuff.
Okay. All right. All
Do
right.
that usual. We didn't do it at the
I
head.
know. off
We
the
didn't do it
top.
at the head.
I know. I was
We
so
all
excited to
forgot.
get to these guys.
We all forgot.
No. I was so excited to talk to these guys about Corvairs.
All right,
that
do it at the tail,
totally-
CJ.
Okay, we'll do it. All right. So you want to follow, like, subscribe, and we have our YouTube.
Channel.
All right. And now this is the part you guys are talking about. Go to our website, westofTulsa.com. Click on the, what link is it again? Is it?
Tip line.
There we go. Because I always think we've changed the name,
We've
but
only
we
done
haven't,
it.
and
We've
we
only
talked
done it
about it.
35
We know we're not
times.
going to do shit.
So go to the tip line page, fill it out, name, number, all that other stuff. What we should be talking about. If you want to join us here in studio, maybe you can.
We are starting to get lots of guests from the tip line,
We
which
are.
is good.
Yeah,
so
it's some nice
that's
contacts.
cool.
So yeah. Keep it up. All right, so that's how you reach us if you want to join us here in West of Tulsa. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
And we will see you west of Tulsa.